Good afternoon. I am with Sarah Zoccolo. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you?
All is well. I'm here in my office at the Barancik Foundation in Sarasota, Florida. I just wanted to ask you a few questions about what you're an expert in with sports and your passions for your career.
Okay,
So,
sounds good.
yes. So, what inspired you for your passion, and can you explain to us what that passion is?
Writing in general became my passion when I started writing stories about anthropomorphic cats, aka cats that stand and talk like humans as a child. And ever since then, I've just realized that writing can really unlock your imagination. Just putting pen to paper can do so much for you.
Awesome. With us being the sports class, how do you use your writing skills, and what do you feel like you're expert in?
I use my writing skills to tell ethical and objective stories where I don't insert opinions. I tell the facts. I make sure people's quotes are represented accurately. I don't misrepresent what they said. And I use my expertise to create stories about local community members. Like I have interviewed, because I'm in Jacksonville, Florida, Jack's Port authorities, Whataburger operating partners, even a few local National Weather Service employees.
Wow. And could you tell us when you go into that process, what does that look like from reaching out to them to getting the story out?
It usually starts with me reaching out through my Gator Cloud or UF email, whichever one you want to call it. I'll send a message at least a few days in advance. I've been bad about that before, but I've gotten better with not procrastinating, especially if they're an established source who I've spoken to before. It'll be easier for me to hear back because we have that connection. And once I get a response, we discuss interview times. I send my Zoom link. We talk over Zoom, kind of like we're doing right now for this interview. I go back, usually record it, watch for quotes, exact quotes to make sure, again, I don't plagiarize or misrepresent. I go through the assignment instructions again because so far all the writing I've done has been for assignments. I submit and it usually ends up going pretty well.
Great. I would say it would go as well if once you're taking the time for the research, you're taking time to make those connections, and you're also, like you said, you're getting the quotes and you're getting the facts. So I think those are all the great ingredients to telling stories the correct way. Um,
Absolutely.
so yes. So now sport. Let's talk a little sports. So what's your
Okay.
favorite sport, and when did you?
Basketball, definitely.
Okay, okay. Who's your favorite player?
I don't know if I have a favorite player per se. I track teams more than players, especially college. My favorite teams, of course, the Florida Gators, Louisville Cardinals, because of my mom's side of the family, Syracuse Orange, because of my dad's side of the family. There's a few others that I like here and there, but I don't track as much as the other three I mentioned.
Yes. Okay. So with this season, how do you feel about their chances? How do you feel about Louisville and UF's chances this year in March Madness?
I feel like they're both doing really well. Syracuse, not so much, but Florida in particular, they only have a few losses. They have a
Right.
strong offense, strong defense. I think they could make it far as long as they don't choke in the first round. But last year's team was not as good. That Colorado thing was a pretty offensive shootout, but I think we can
Yeah.
do better than that this year.
Yes. I really do like the height and the size of this year's team. They space the floor really well. Like you said, they're very well balanced. So when you watch basketball, are there anything in particular that you look for, like player tendencies or strategic or strategies that coaches use, or what stands out to you when you watch the game?
Something that really stands out when I watch basketball is I notice sometimes a lot of teams shoot so many three-pointers. Like you can't just
Yes.
rely on three-pointers specifically as a strategy. You have to go for layups, you have to go for three free throws when you can get them. It can't always be three-pointers, but I do try to observe and see what their scoring patterns are to see if they work for that particular team and lineup.
Yes. And a lot of teams, like you said, a lot of teams that's their formula is to shoot a lot of threes, with analytics being the big thing in the game now, especially with Steph Curry and what the Warriors have done. Everyone's trying to kind of follow that formula. And it works out for some teams, specifically
It
the
does.
Boston Celtics. They just won a championship doing that.
And
So
Villanova.
that's right. That's right. So are there any coaches that stand out to you? Or are there any like specific players or analysts or anyone around the game that stand out to you?
Going to the NBA, I will name one player who really stood out to me specifically in last year's Olympics. That has to be Steph Curry. I could not believe how he just kept nailing those three-pointers. Of course, he is the greatest three-point shooter in NBA history, but his precision, his form is just almost immaculate to a sense that it really helped them win the gold medal.
Right. And to emphasize that he's on a team with a LeBron James, a Kevin Durant, a Joel Embiid, a Jason Tatum. It's a very
Oh
talented
yeah,
team. So to stand out on
totally.
that team and to play at that high of a level on that stage is big. And as great as Steph Curry has been, there are some critics who question him in those moments. So it was really great to see him do that and bring home gold to the U.S. So
Agreed.
yes. Now, with Steph Curry, Got to ask some shooting questions. Who do you think, if there's any younger players or current players, who do you think is close to what he could do, or can even, because his numbers are pretty far out there. So is there anyone that comes to mind that can shoot close to that or can catch any of his numbers?
I'm not as good with all the player specifics, but
Yes.
I feel like even though he's out for the season now, Wembanyama has been a pretty promising new player. I'm not sure if he'll get the same number of threes, but he has
Yes.
seen some success. He's elevated the Spurs, even though they didn't have the best record last year. He's tall, he's efficient, he can move, even with his height and size. He can get the ball in the basket, everything that matters for the game.
Exactly. And with a player like Wembanyama, like you hit it right on the nail. The shooting, the size, the defense. And a lot of people think he could have won Defensive Player last year as a rookie. So he may end up winning this year. Unfortunately, he got an injury, so we'll see how that comes out if he comes back and plays. But he's playing at an extremely
Yes.
high level, extremely high level.
It's an
Now,
odd injury, too. It's like deep thrombosis, not something a younger person should have.
yeah, yeah, and usually the taller players usually deal with those odd injuries with the foot, the ankle, knee area. But yes. So now, as far as your career, what career do you hope to pursue, and what are you doing now to reach those goals?
I would love to be an editor or a writer, preferably for a national organization, maybe like ESPN. And what I'm doing to reach those goals is I am starting with local internships because admittedly I have not had a real job yet. So I'm going to start with local internships like News for Jack's, First Coast News, if I can land one. Then I'll build my way up the totem pole. I can customize my resume for every single application. These are things that I've been learning in another one of my classes too.
Awesome. Now, as we're wrapping this interview up, is there any advice or expertise that you could give to someone who else is pursuing the same goals that you have?
I would just say stay persistent, never give up, reach out to as many people as you can because for every one person who responds, you might have like nine who don't. And always be ethical and objective in your writing unless your assignment specifically calls for an editorial or opinion piece. Those are the best ways to build your credibility as a student or an official journalist.
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Mm.